Before I get started, big thanks to League Entertainment and Batnik for the gameplay clips. Their links will be in the description. So, a couple years ago, I saw this stream breaking down The Batman, where they pretty much concluded that the film was in the middle of the road. Nothing bad or anything, but around the 5 out of 10 ballpark. I've heard the arguments, and respectfully disagree with them. I think The Batman is the best comic book adaptation out there, and I've been interested in responding in video form for some time. So, here's my disagreement, and I'll tell you why.
They're walking through to go to the crime scene, he's following Jim, but all the other cops are looking at him a bit weird. Like, the fuck's this Bat guy doing here?
Which is probably already time for us to discuss
the correct reaction.
This is, I wonder if this is categorized in world building, but you've got very clear, and as with more of the film being watched, they have every reason to not only prevent him from getting in any way involved, but they also kind of hate him. And I think that the biggest reason we're given for him being entered is Jim Gordon, which I don't know is enough when he's a lieutenant rather than the commissioner.
I understand where the confusion may lie, but Batman literally gets kicked out the moment the commissioner arrives, so it's not like the film is communicating that Jim has full control of the situation. He's still limited in how much he can work with Batman. Regardless, Jim is going to be invested in bringing him when he can, because Batman consistently brings results. Plus, they're friends.
I guess the question would be, do we know quite how long he has been able to directly participate in these investigations? And second one, the letter is addressed to the Batman.
Nobody knows
this
that
was the
until...
only one he was there for.
Isn't that something they reveal a little bit later?
I believe it
like
is
Jim knows
later.
it, but I don't think that, because the commissioner is pissed at this
It's
event.
revealed to the commissioner. Well, that's the commissioner doesn't know that he's even there, right? Until he shows up, and then he's like, "Why is he here?" And then Jim shows him the letter that's addressed to the Batman. I got the impression that this was like the only investigation that Batman was there for.
I believe that too. Yeah.
The first thing to sort out is why aren't they arresting him?
Because Jim is the one who's in charge until the commissioner arrives. Martinez questions Jim on this, but because Jim has the higher authority, he has to tell Martinez to let Batman pass. And it's not like they can adequately arrest Batman here. Batman's suit is known to deflect bullets, so pulling guns on him isn't strong leverage. On top of this, a fight with Batman can possibly destroy evidence and contaminate the scene, so the commissioner wants Batman to leave without a fight so they can continue their work.
I would also argue they hate him and they're corrupt. Just as additional.
Right.
And the commissioner says he could be a suspect.
I wouldn't say every last officer hates Batman or is corrupt. You can find Batman's methods questionable without being corrupt. We see that Martinez is, who eventually warms up to Batman. While I'll agree that the commissioner would have stronger reasons to get Batman arrested, like I said earlier, that's not really practical to attempt here.
Yep.
I wish they established earlier on that the cops were sort of iffy on him. Like some of them were clearly like, "Oh, hey, it's Batman," instead of this extreme skepticism from pretty much everyone. As far as I remember.
Every single cop looks at him like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Martinez does strike me as someone who's iffy on Batman, because he does grow to accept his usefulness. He even helps Gordon sneak him into another investigation.
Lieutenant, they're coming back. We gotta get out of here.
He seems more in the camp of finding Batman questionable, but not firm on never letting him help. And while we do see the other cops acting confused, that could simply be a product of not expecting Batman to be here, and finding it questionable. That doesn't mean they're completely opposed to accepting his help, that just means they at least find Batman's involvement questionable, which still falls under being iffy about him.
All we have that we can use is that Jim is protecting him. And I guess the question would be, is that enough, considering that he's not the commissioner? And it seems like the only thing, because we get the line, because the commissioner and Jim were partners, and he says like, you know, I tolerate a lot of things because we were partners, but this, it's like, yeah.
Which felt a little clunk to me.
It is a little clunk. It's hey, we were partners. That's
well, because they wrote it for the exact reason you just said. They were like, we got to provide a bit more, probably, to make this come
These two
across
know
a
that
bit.
they're partners. Yeah. Why would he say that? I know we're partners. I'm Jim Gordon.
The commissioner is explaining his confusion with Gordon acting behind his back. He's not just saying they used to be partners for the sake of it. He first asks,
"What are you doing to me?"
He then follows up with,
"We used to be partners."
I feel that makes enough sense to bring up when you're confused as to why someone is doing something behind your back.
And it's times like that where you're just like, oh, you should be okay. Just say, like, everything we've been through, man, like, I really think you're stretching this. You know, and we can be like, everything they've been through. Huh, I wonder what that relates to.
I think so.
He basically said the same thing that's being suggested.
I cut you a lot of slack, Jim, because we got history, but this is way over the line.
That line is referencing everything they've been through.
Those thugs,
Ooh.
They open up the door, and he's like, I'm Batman. And they're like, And then he closes it, and he opens it back up for his twin friend, and then they decide to be like, get the fuck out of here, or we're gonna beat you up, make you leave. and then they fight him and they lose miserably. So, do you think that at this point in Batman's like legacy / Gotham's history that they should be more careful considering who he is and what he can do and how aware of him?
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Realistically speaking, it's even difficult for trained fighters to take on numerous people at once. If you send over 6 Penguin goons, John Jones, he is running from that fight. The twins have high confidence in their ability to fight, alongside their coordination considering they work together very often and would have similar training. While it is smarter to get backup, I have no issue believing that these two believe they can take him in a fight.
Could it be they're confident because they know there's loads of guys in there with guns?
Had they had a bunch of guys with guns, I'd totally on board with that, but they had 2 guys with 2 fists.
Well, yeah, 2 guys at the entrance, but like they know that they're backed up by loads of guys with guns.
The twins.
Yeah,
they
honestly, they should have guns, and I would be happy with the scene if both
I
of
would
them
be
had
happy
a
with the scene
gun.
if they had guns, yeah.
I think it's fine that they don't use guns at first on the basis that they believe they can take out Batman, and would likely get street credit for beating him in a fight.
When someone rags about it, I thought it would be an opportunity to open the door, and Batman's just standing there, and then he fucking closes it, and you hear lock, 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 lock. And he's just like...
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I watched the film, I thought they were going to do something clever, shall we say, but they didn't, and I thought it was a real loss.
Okay, so if the twins just lock the door, how are people going to enter the building and support their business? How are people going to leave the building? And what happens if Batman just sticks around and scares away customers? Fun fact, the Spectacular Spider-Man has a joke that addresses this very issue.
Give me 2-1 on Spider-Man. Bye!
I don't know, maybe just hang out a while.
Okay.
It really wouldn't be smart to just lock him out. You want to deal with the guy as quickly as possible, because he's just going to disrupt their business if he sticks around.
Because let's say you don't really know that much about Batman, but a guy shows up in front of your door, and he's covered in armor and metal plates. I think you want to avoid punching him with your hands.
The twins aren't aiming for his armor plates, they aim for the head where his mouth is exposed, and the mask doesn't even appear to be as armored as the body plates.
Yeah, if the Batman shows up and says, I want to talk to your employer, I was thinking that they'd go like, okay, we'll go get him.
The twins don't know what Batman will do to the Penguin. This could be a ruse for all they know, just so he can beat on Penguin. They don't trust that he's just there to talk.
Wasn't impressed with Batman's decision on how to approach the Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah, that sucked.
Go to the front door.
It was a little weird to see him just walk up to the front door.
Yeah, start punching everybody. Yeah, it sucked.
Where else is Batman going to enter? This isn't an Arkham game where you can just enter through the vents. He knows they won't just lock him out considering this is a business, so he waits until they try to force him out before breaking and entering. Batman is fully prepared to fight anyone who tries to stop him.
Like show up in Penguin's office rather than
exactly.
At the front door.
We don't see Batman going in. The Penguin's just going about his business. He's got a girl with him. He's talking to some patrons on the way to his office. He closes the door. He sighs. He thinks he's alone. He turns around. Oh shit, Batman's in my office just sitting there waiting for me.
Sup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but instead Batman very cleverly shows up at the front door and starts punching everyone.
I think that could make for an interesting scene, but it being different doesn't necessarily make it better. They haven't presented a legitimate alternative that Batman would know of.
Forgot to mention, by the way, I think Batman is shot at 3 or 4 times in the club, in the active club with many people everywhere.
At least twice, yeah.
Yes, as I said, this is just like a last, you don't want to be doing this.
Shooting Batman is literally a last resort. Let's look at the scene real quick. They start off by trying to swarm him in hand-to-hand combat. This fails. Someone even attempts to use a baseball bat afterwards, and this still fails. Kenzie only pulls out a gun after Batman does all of this, and even then, he gives him a warning before doing so, and even then, we can see what Kenzie sees in this next shot, and nobody is in the background from the angle Kenzie is standing. The twins do shoot Batman from behind, but nobody is in front of Batman besides Kenzie, and while that is risky, this is their one chance to get the drop on Batman with their guns, and it's easier to shoot a target that doesn't see you coming as opposed to having one that is moving. Most people are out of the way by the time either of them shoot guns.
Like, you have to be an absolute fool to start shooting guns like that in a crowded club where you have your workers and patrons, and you want to draw as little like police attention to this place as possible.
Kenzie is literally a police officer.
To the point where I wouldn't even like give the people who work on the inside guns.
Why not? What happens if Batman actually used guns and wanted to shoot up the place? Should Penguin security not have any guns and allow themselves to get killed? As far as attracting police attention, any kind of shooting or break-in will attract the police. As long as the Penguin isn't held responsible for what happens, this is fine. He already has connections to the police in the film, so it's not like he can't use police corruption to his advantage.
Because that's just a recipe.
Wait a minute, bring police attention to it. What are you thinking about there?
Like the sense that you don't want to get this place, like you don't want to create commotion here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but if someone breaks into your building and shoots it up or attacks your security guards, it's not creating commotion to defend yourself. The commotion already took place in that instance.
Yeah, and I understand that police corruption is a big aspect, but you can't rely on that to solve all of your issues and stuff.
It's an in-universe explanation that the film is relying on. I think that's completely fair to use.
You don't want to get this place on the radar.
How do you get on the radar by defending your nightclub?
You don't want to have guns. Like, what if a patron gets shot?
Yeah, if someone dies,
they're gonna go. Yeah, like that's gonna be a big deal.
As opposed to allowing a potential shooter or trespasser to hurt or kill security guards and therefore risk the lives of the patrons anyway.
It's always pretty much gonna create more problems than it'll solve.
And you want patrons to keep coming back.
Exactly, so. It's a business.
Why would people go back to a nightclub where inside security isn't allowed to have guns in the event of trespassing?
He notices that the boots that Selina is wearing are the same boots as a girl in the photo nearby is wearing, and this leads him to trail her after she leaves the Iceberg Lounge. So, in case it wasn't very apparent, so if Selina had come in to that room 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, Bruce would have had nothing to work with anymore.
Or just different shoes.
Or different shoes.
Yeah.
I think it's not a
different shoes.
Okay, so I first want to establish that Batman already has interest in following up with Selina before he even takes note of the shoes being the same. Selina takes a long glance at the photograph, and we're shown through the visuals that Batman is paying attention to this, so he already suspects she might know something about her. Selina then watches Batman from a distance while he is talking to Penguin, which further hints that she has a deeper interest in what Batman is investigating. He only takes note of the boots at the end of the scene, which could easily be a product of a dress code that is enforced on workers, which isn't uncommon. And let's think about how Selina becomes of interest to begin with. Batman asks around about Annika, and Selina takes notice. So that means if Batman asks around about Annika, this will eventually reach Selina's attention. So it doesn't matter if Selina didn't walk in the room yet, or was in there 5 minutes ago. If Penguin doesn't have an answer, then Batman can just ask other people in the nightclub if they know this person, perhaps other workers who may know of her. Selina will similarly take notice, and Batman will have the same suspicions he has in this very scene. Batman isn't going to leave the lounge until he has something to work with.
If she had come into that room 5 minutes earlier or later, the film is radically different.
Batman isn't locked to spending 5 minutes talking to Penguin. Like I said, Batman is going to ask other people if Penguin doesn't give him anything to work with. Batman has something to work with once Selina shows hints of personal investment.
I think
it's too specific when she shows up.
You can have is that she works there, she notices the big brawl, and then she very just curious like a cat, follows Batman into Penguin's thing with the excuse of I have a drink, but she's just more interested to see what this Batman's all about.
This would literally happen if Batman decided to ask other people in the building, which he would have done if he had nothing to work with. This is getting Selina's attention sooner or later.
It's like, no, look at him. Like, actually, go talk to him. I need, like, his face. I need to see that you're talking to, that's the DA. But by doing that, he decides he wants to have a chat with Selina, which actually is super helpful anyway. So, she sits down, talks with him, and then he, now, I will say, Bruce makes the observation, oh man, he's like high off of the drops. He's super high. I don't think that is a good enough explanation for how
I agree.
To share very incriminating, well, it's not necessarily incriminating, but very secret information with someone you've never met before.
I first want to note that drops is a fictional addictive drug created in Gotham City, so it's entirely reasonable that one of the side effects is that people simply have less restraint and are therefore easier to trick or manipulate, and are worse at keeping secrets. In fact, this can happen to people who are drunk. We also see them drinking at the table. It's clear to me that the DA wants to vent his worries about the Riddler, and is easy to take advantage of while he's high.
It can work, but you have to work harder for it. If someone's drunk or high, they will probably be more likely to let slip information they wouldn't already have. However, you have to work towards it. You have to be subtle with the questions you ask, and you have to lead them on in a way that isn't obvious and direct.
Sure, but how would the DA predict that Selina is just trying to dig up private information to help a case for the Batman? She's just a girl that he believes is into him and wants to provide her support.
Whereas you'd never get them to open their mouth before, but now you have a chance. There are little openings in their mind that you could maybe take advantage of, but
wasn't impressed.
Was not impressed at all with this.
Selina's dialogue. There was particularly a line. The film thought it was achieving something when it shows her put her hand on his knee and then say, "So about this rat."
A rat.
It's like, what are you doing? That looks so obvious.
Obvious of what? That she's trying to dig for information and feed it to some detective? She asks about the rat because someone just mentioned it. She's listening to the conversation. How is it suspicious that she asks about the contents of it?
So we've never met before, and her first interest is like, hey, tell me this. You literally just described that if this were found out, it could destroy the entire city. And then she's like, so,
Ooh, that sounds fun. Tell me more about that.
That's not what happens in the film. The DA doesn't mention the risk of the city being torn apart until after Selina asks about the rat.
Hey, what's this about a rat?
It's gonna come out. And when it does, this whole city's gonna come apart.
If anything, the DA mentions that so Selina would know not to run off and chat about it.
And isn't there a certain element of luck, just the fact that all of these people are here
yes,
that night?
I was just about to say that, yeah. They're all here, they all go clubbing, or a lot of them do drugs, you know.
Well,
you can be corrupt without going clubbing and doing drugs in a...
Well, to be fair, I would consider this a huge, risk. Let's say I am corrupt, I'd be like, I'm going to the fucking Club Penguin.
I don't see how that's a risk. That doesn't expose him for anything, he's just going there to hang out.
The fact that he says, like, oh man, I'm nervous about everything that's going on, it's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, it's
to do drugs.
I don't think
Can't the DA afford to do drugs at home?
How does going to a nightclub that hundreds of other people go to put himself at risk? You'd need to have extremely privileged information to have anything specific on the DA.
I think there is an aspect to this too, where I'm wondering, there doesn't seem to be any attempt whatsoever for these higher ups, the DA and the stuff like that, to be subtle about them being there. They're at the, I understand, yes, there's a lot of corrupt cops and stuff, but
that kind of explains a lot of the questions being asked here.
The cops weren't at all involved in the media learning about it and public opinion and stuff like that. I would have appreciated a little more subtlety in these characters going, like when she said, "Oh, you're the DA," and he's like, "Yeah, yeah."
Is it really that big of a deal? Supporting a business isn't illegal, and you're only allowed into the more secluded areas of the club if Falcone grants you that permission. A common patron can't just enter here where Kenzie is guarding.
The bomb guy, and then, all the police seem to react pretty what? When Batman is coming in. But nothing happens, with that.
Yeah.
They just sort of let it happen. When I wouldn't be surprised in seeing, a bunch of them being like, Batman's gonna fuck this up. He's gonna fuck everything up. Get him out of there.
The chief literally voices this exact concern, and the reason the police don't go to arrest Batman while he's doing this is because the letter verbatim says, "To the Batman." So it's obvious that one of Riddler's demands is that he wants to talk to the Batman. There's a reason he instructed the DA to point at the letter. It's so that everyone knows that the Batman is wanted. If the police go against the Triggerman's orders, then the obvious outcome is that he'll blow up the DA.
Yeah, especially remembering this is an important person. This is the DA.
He's got a bomb in his neck. We gotta... Yeah. I just don't believe that they'd be like, all right, let Batman give it a shot. It's like, no.
I guess it would be... Yeah, because...
we have a bomb squad for a reason.
Giving it a shot...
Batman is the bomb squad.
Giving it a shot means entertaining the Riddler's game, essentially, which I don't know that the police
Batman's
would necessarily...
game. Who knows what he's up to, really?
You'd have to play into Riddler's demands to a certain degree if you don't want the DA to have his head blown up.
I think when they get the explicit answer the questions and you won't die, there is an element of, oh, well, I guess we let him help him with the riddles.
But that means they've still... You say help him with the riddles, but they've just decided he will be the one, not whoa, Batman's controlling the situation. That is not, our prerogative.
If they remove Batman from the situation, then Riddler's demands aren't being met. If they aren't being met, he's going to blow up the DA.
Wouldn't the solution here be for the phone to be called and then Riddler says, until Batman arrives, anyone who gets within X amount of space, this man will explode. Something like that.
That's literally what "to the Batman" is implying. His demand is talking to Batman.
Mm-hmm. That would work, yeah.
I'll only talk to the Batman, or the Batman has to be here if he's not here.
Well, I mean, is that not the inference that you would make of it to the Batman and a phone?
Thank you.
So
yeah, but the idea
until they get an explicit threat, the cops were not going to just let Batman be the one to control the situation.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just common sense. Riddler has a bomb. While he's choosing not to blow up the DA is under orders to point to the letter that Riddler wrote to Batman.
But of course he doesn't, and he blows up within an inch of Batman.
Yeah, that one was.
This is one of many examples, unfortunately, in the film of substantial plot armor.
Plot armor is when characters survive or progress in the story based on inconsistencies. Batman surviving this bomb isn't an inconsistency. Batman is infamously known in media to have armor that is more advanced than we'd expect in the real world, as well as tech in general. There's no armor that will protect you from bullets as well as Batman's does. It doesn't exist. Batman is shown taking hordes of bullets without being pushed back. Another example of this kind of creative licensing is found in the Dark Knight trilogy, where Batman's cape is capable of gliding him around the city in a decently accurate fashion. This doesn't exist in the real world. Arkham Knight takes it to another level.
Well, Mr. Wayne, let me walk you through it. The outer and inner layers of the bodysuit are made of a titanium-dipped tri-weave. It's between those layers where things get interesting. Wayne Tech MR fluid hardens in response to impact. With this kind of shock absorption, you'll be able to put more force into your counterattacks. The liquid armor's more flexible than the fibers you're accustomed to as well. You can use that increased maneuverability to take out multiple foes in quick succession. The suit's compatible with the Batmobile's electromagnetic eject mechanism, too. You'll fly out of that thing like a bullet from a railgun. Speaking of which, the new grapnel launcher will pull you skyward just as fast. Don't worry, Mr. Wayne. That suit can take the G's.
Obviously, a lot of what Batman can do or survive isn't realistic, but it doesn't have to be. Creative licensing is a part of fictional stories, especially ones involving superheroes.
And I don't know why I think they're being sarcastic, but I just want to clarify that level of force in your face, like, it's just go, like...
Matt, yeah, the heat and the concussive force and the oof, it's not good.
So I just don't know why they don't make it like duck or hide behind his cape or whatever, like something.
Batman literally blocked his face right before the bomb went off.
Man, Riddler must have been like, oh no, this has all gone wrong.
Exactly.
I never would have wanted this to happen, considering what we find out later. I don't know if I should say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Riddler should be distraught. This is terrible. What's just happened?
I know the angle he's going with this, but he's basically saying that the Riddler should be concerned about if Batman survived this. Yes, he should, but we don't see his reaction. So we would obviously infer that Riddler was worried for a brief moment, but would be relieved by reports of Batman escaping the GCPD alive.
He gets knocked out, and then he wakes up in the police department. Like, alright, come on, take off the mask. Now, they probably should have taken it off already.
I actually consider this a significant issue.
The other cops literally discuss wanting to take Batman's mask off.
I think he's just under there. Take it easy. I want to see him. Who cares? I want to see his face. What are we doing here?
We see at least 2 cops preemptively blocking out a whole chunk of officers after seeing one of them try to take the mask off. Jim would have brought trusted officers with him to cover for Batman's identity. And we know that not literally all of the other cops want to take down Batman.
Not only do I believe the police would never be stopped by Gordon saying don't do it, I think Gordon would do it. I think Gordon would be like, this guy needs medical attention. I'm sorry, your identity is not more important than your life.
Yeah.
Like, we need to save you.
You don't have to take Batman's mask off to perform medical procedures. One of the first tests is his pupils, which doesn't require him to remove his mask. Prior to that, they probably would have checked if he was able to breathe, and we know that he's breathing just fine. He's not even bleeding anywhere on the face, where he has the least protection. And even if they had to remove his mask later to perform other tests, Batman has already gotten up before they can do that.
Plus, Gordon's curious. He asks him before, he's like, who are you? Am I ever gonna learn who you are?
Just because Gordon is curious about Batman's identity doesn't mean he's going to go against his friend's wishes.
I just think that, like, I would do it for Batman. I'd be like, mate, you've been blown up. You're out of. I don't even know if you're dying.
You're alive
injuries.
somehow.
It's like, we gotta
yeah.
get you to the hospital right now. Instead, they take him to,
check
like,
your
the
brain.
interrogation room's table. Just plop him on it. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah. This is not what would happen.
There would be medical supplies in the room. That's what the scene is showing us.
He gets up off the table real fast and he's totally ready for brawling. It's like, aren't you, like, disoriented and like, oh, fuck, what the fuck happened to me? Ah, you know?
It's almost like Batman recovered after taking some time to rest.
I like all the exchange. I think it's great. But I think this should have been the end of Batman being able to have any connection with the police.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. It's over now because
this
you...
is
100%.
This is the out.
I would also argue that Jim should be in trouble. If it was like, he was punched, it's like, he vouched for Batman.
Still.
So... It's like your credibility is pretty through the floor. Like, you just fucked up, and he's escaped thanks to you doing this.
Or at least be lucky. The only thing that you're punished with is you getting punched.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he got demoted for this. Like, this is big.
Gordon isn't solely at fault for this. The chief also believed the situation could be controlled, so he gave Gordon the floor to talk to Batman and get him to cooperate. The chief could have kept all the cops in there to attack Batman, but that would still result in harm of his own men, and he'd prefer to take the more peaceful route if there is a way. Yes, the chief would probably have a talk with Gordon about trusting Batman, but he isn't unreasonable either. He would still understand that the blame also falls on himself for allowing Gordon to do this, and that they both believed that what they did would have a positive end result. This isn't something he'd fire Jim over.
When he's gliding, deploys his parachute to land on a bus, it snags on the bridge and he smashes his head against a steel bar.
It's actually not his head. If you slow down the footage, you can see that it's his chest area, which is better equipped to take hits than your face.
First of all, why the fuck did you deploy it like that, you idiot? That was like the stupidest mistake you could make.
What's wrong with how he deployed it? Batman was first preoccupied with trying to shift his trajectory so he doesn't fall flat in front of the GCPD building, and was then preoccupied trying to avoid crashing into a building, so his full focus was needed on maneuvering the gliding suit, which the film established that he's new with.
Bruce is standing there looking, and then he gets hit with a ray of gunfire from a machine gun, and it goes spark, 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 all around everywhere that isn't his jaw. And because you might be like, well, it's just not very likely. It's like, it's Mandalorian. It's the same fucking thing, man. It's just like, he's lucky.
Batman literally blocks his face from being shot at, so of course it's not going to be as likely that the bullets are going to hit his jaw.
And the fact that the force of these bullets just does nothing. It never does anything. And I don't know, that's just lame to me.
Why? If the film establishes that his armor is that powerful, then the film establishes that his armor is that powerful. That is internal consistency at play here.
They're hiding, they're shooting, Jim tries to come in to help, and Penguin's coming up like, I'm gonna get you, whoever's there trying to take my money. But then when he rounds the car, Batman's not there anymore. I guess he just ran away and nobody saw it, or?
There's a moment in time where Jim starts shooting at the Penguin goons. We don't see Batman again until after he gets into the Batmobile. So the obvious explanation is that Batman used Jim's distraction to sneak over to his car unseen.
Yeah, it's a bit of a teleport. It seems like it would be hard not to notice him, especially when you consider where Penguin's standing, where all his men are standing, and where Batman was, and where the car is.
This is the direction Penguin and his goons are facing when shooting at Batman. When Jim arrives, they have to look in another direction, and are busy dealing with the fact that they're being shot at. Jim even gets one of them.
So when I was in the theater watching this movie, this was the first big point where I was like, oh, Batman, no. Because when Penguin leaves, Batman goes to chase Penguin, which means that he has left his friend with all of these gunmen who are showering his concealment, because a car is not really covered.
Behind a car door, which is bad enough.
He's behind a car door and part of a car, who's being showered with automatic machine gun fire, and he leaves him there to go chase Penguin.
Batman turns on his vehicle so that Penguin's goons are drawn off of Jim, and this does happen. As soon as he inches closer with the Batmobile, Penguin tells Kenzie to get the money, which implies the next step for Penguin's goons is for them to escape. These gunmen are literally being scared off by Batman so that Jim has a chance to leave.
Like, oh, Batman, no!
And let's be fair, this is not known by the movie. They don't have a moment of them acknowledging, like, you left me to chase him or anything. They're just like, no, the movie thinks it's
Gordon
fine.
Gordon just shows up next time they meet, and I guess he survived all that, which is insane, because, again, say with me, cars aren't bulletproof.
Cars aren't bulletproof.
Cars are not bulletproof.
So the first thing I want to mention is that Jim is no longer being shot at after Batman gets in the Batmobile. So obviously he would have survived after Batman left. But also, I was curious about this cars aren't bulletproof point. So I looked up if cars can be bulletproof. And the first thing I see is a site that showcases videos of armored cars going through ballistics tests and grenade tests with 100% passenger survivability. And when I told my friend Batnick about this point, he found this with just one Google search. And even if we ignore the real world, this is literally appealing to reality by claiming that cars can't be bulletproof because they aren't in the real world.
To be fair, so Cap, you highlighting that it shouldn't even really be, like, it shouldn't be that. It's not like the difference here is, this is the one chance I have to get information or save my friend. It's, no, you can follow Penguin another time, help Gordon.
Except Penguin is likely to heavily fortify his hideout if he knows Batman is primarily hunting for him, or even go into a secret hideout. If Batman doesn't get this information, Riddler is going to kill more people, possibly on a grander scale, since his last scheme almost got a crowd of people killed, because he forced the DA to drive through a populated area with a bomb on his neck. Riddler is absolutely a priority, especially when Batman knows Jim is capable of leaving on his own after the Penguin goons have been scared off.
And then he flies through and hits Penguin's car, and it just goes flying all over the place. So yeah, the thought in my mind at this point is, holy shit, that's a lot of people dead, probably from that explosion.
So,
a lot of carnage.
Here's the part that really fucks with me. It sucks to say, because everyone adores the shot, right?
The shot's awesome.
It's hard not to think about the screams in the background.
No.
Those people behind were either injured by the crashes, in which case you send medics for them, or ended up suffering from burns, in which case you send the fire department. Regardless, Batman can only wait for people to put out those fires or give medical attention to the injured. There isn't much he can do outside of calling it in. Batman would have told Gordon about the crash if Gordon didn't already know, so he would be able to send fire and rescue here. We don't even see Batman leave his vehicle immediately after the crash. It takes a good 15 seconds before we see him leave, so we can reasonably assume he would have contacted Gordon and given him an exact location. On top of this, he needs to ensure Penguin's capture. If Penguin leaves, a lot of this is for nothing.
I think this is the clearest example in this film of the story being beholden to the spectacle.
Absolutely.
We really wanted the shot of upside-down Batman walking through the rain with the fire in the back of red, and we needed to get it. And it doesn't matter how insane it is that, like, this thing caused a ramp that he could fly over, or that the chase itself happening is, like, iffy, and then it creates a massive explosion and people getting hurt and killed that Batman ignores, and that the Penguin did this. And I guess we're jumping the gun. There are no consequences for him for this. He's not arrested or convicted for this massive pileup that he caused.
Penguin has connections to the corrupted police force, and he would be able to excuse himself with the fact he was being chased by a vigilante, and therefore prone to accidentally causing a pileup.
Just in terms of the fact that Penguin never faces any consequences for this, neither does Batman, and obviously Penguin is the one who's most responsible, but Batman could have just followed him.
What?
This is something that the real police do.
Yeah, that's a huge issue.
Yeah,
that
so if you watch
for
cops and like police stuff where they do chases, a lot of the times police in the real world will be like, "Don't chase him because he's in a really crowded place, and we don't want him going at super high speed, so back off. Don't give the criminal don't make the criminal feel like they have to speed super fast through very dangerous places."
I know it's
police have the advantage of numbers and surveillance technology, so of course they can easily rely on these measures. Batman is one man, and he's the only one who knows to go after Penguin to find information to stop Riddler. If Batman loses Penguin, the Riddler is going to kill more people, perhaps innocent people. You can say it's a risk all you want, just like any superhero chase in existence, but the clear idea is that there are higher and more likely risks if the bad guy gets away. Is it a problem for Spider-Man to chase after the Shocker because this can cause damage on the road? Is it a problem for Spider-Man to chase Mr. Negative because this can cause damage on the road? Is it a problem for Miguel to chase Miles because it can cause damage on the road? In all of those scenarios, while there are risks in even engaging in the chase, the characters believe it's worth it because of what's at stake if they do escape. It's not like Batman just stopped to talk with Penguin and didn't take him seriously either. He actively avoided vehicles on the road and tried to stop Penguin from causing any damage.
I don't know how I feel. I'm going to test this one out, see what everyone says. What he does to Penguin would easily have killed him.
Okay, what else should Batman do? Should he let Penguin drive further and possibly kill other people? He's trying to bump his vehicle so it swerves and comes to a stop. This actually happens in real police chases since that's being brought up in these points. Like, I don't understand the standard. Batman could kill people if he punches them hard enough, but he's still going to risk it if he's forced into a situation where he has to fight.
There is a big moment in this film that makes it very clear Batman's very much in the rule of no killing. And it's like, but this action you take, I don't know, man.
This is dependent on the person you're chasing having a seatbelt on, which you don't know.
So if we look at the scene, Penguin is wearing a seatbelt right here. Interesting. Now, is there any point in the chase where Batman is able to view Penguin directly? Yes, there is.
I guess the TLDR for that part is, you're the rat. No, I'm not actually. I'm not. And then they're like, oh, they're El Rata thing. And then he says, no, you obviously, like, basically, you guys obviously don't speak Spanish. It's La Rata, or whatever the whole saying is.
Thank goodness he's fluent, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in the United States, I guess I can expect that someone might be familiar with Spanish.
Like, I'm not sure that it's something that you need to be fluent to know either. Like,
no, it seems
a word ending in A. It's
I just don't believe that's common knowledge. More than less common knowledge.
Sure. I think it's weird that Batman doesn't know this and Penguin does.
I think Batman should know this.
Mm-hmm. He does.
I'm afraid his Spanish is not perfect.
rat with wings?
He remarks on the phrase right here. He knows what it means. The reason Bruce doesn't solve the riddle yet is because he thinks he first needs to understand the significance of the rat with wings, which is the subject of the sentence. He believes it has to do with Penguin, especially with the corruption associated in the Iceberg Lounge. When they're getting nothing from Penguin, outside of him cooperating by drawing attention to one detail, Batman shifts his focus to the fact that the Spanish is mistaken. When Alfred reads the sentence, he says it like this.
You are El Rata Helada.
He leaves a space in between R and L, because that's how most people are gonna read that sentence. This time, Batman reads it slowly when he's trying to backtrack.
You are L.
And that's when it clicks for him.
Yeah, the back and forth he has with him. It's a good thing that all of it can be read in a light that is encouraging of Riddler's goals rather than discouraging.
What do you think he would have written if he was more hostile?
Anything. Could have been all
You
kinds
gotta
of things.
stop
Yeah,
it.
like literally. Do you think you'll get away with this, or just anything at all that could have implied something like negative?
But is that something that he would have been compelled to write at the time?
You would think, maybe.
I feel like I shouldn't have to come up with an example of something as broad as in any way implying he's not on board with Riddler's plan.
Could I just make the argument he doesn't want to screw around if he's got this opportunity to interact with the Riddler, that he wants to play it as straight as possible to extract as much information as possible?
I think that to have a conversation and no language to imply that is lucky.
It's not, because if Batman were to start criticizing Riddler for what he's doing, that's going to change the topic of conversation. Why would Batman do that in this exclusive opportunity to even talk to the Riddler? Fringy is absolutely correct. It's unlikely that Batman would just screw around and say anything that suggests he's against his plan, while his focus is on understanding what his next target is. It's not a plot convenience that a detective was smart instead of stupid.
Especially when Batman's not intending to do that. Because he's not intending to hide that he thinks his plan is evil.
That's not the topic of conversation.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, if like being confrontational runs the risk of screwing anything up. Well, any implication at all, instead of just, and especially if you don't want to get confused, wouldn't you want to be as matter-of-fact as possible?
But when he says, like, you know, there's going to be a next victim, the fact that, imagine all of the things you could say in response to that would easily imply you're not on board.
Yeah, sure. I can agree. I guess I would also say, like, what if he just wants to play it as straight as possible to get as much information as necessary?
Again, so you can do that while also implying, this thing, if you're arguing Batman's position right now in his head is, I don't want to anger him, but we are antagonists to each other. Like, Batman's perception of Riddler and him right now are that I'm trying to find you to stop you. Riddler's perception is, you are my teammate and I'm slowly giving you the clues to figure out this whole thing.
That doesn't add likelihood to Batman voicing any implications that he's against what Riddler's doing. It's completely pointless to voice that when both of these characters, from Batman's perspective, already know which sides they lie on, and Batman's focus is using this rare opportunity to get information out of him. And even then, Riddler pulls an amazing Lucas and tells him goodbye.
Goodbye.
But then, sprawled across the walls, this is my least favorite riddle because it's not a riddle. Everybody knows the saying, the sins of the father are visited upon the son, and then he realizes, oh no, Bruce Wayne is the target. This is my least favorite riddle. I don't think it's everybody knows this saying.
The first time in the movie where I was like, wait, are you only going after Bruce because he's his son?
Yes, this is what a jealous and petty person would do to punish someone who already died.
Right, you think about all the other people that you went after.
I enjoyed the other targets as of understanding a villain, but this one I was like, ooh.
This seems to be a break of ethics that really kind of makes Riddler a lot less interesting.
How is this a break in ethics? Riddler never cared about innocent people. If he did, he wouldn't force the DA to speed through a crowded funeral. It's not like Sandman, who actually has inconsistent morals, where he's shown to not want to hurt anybody, but he needlessly causes car crashes when he could have just stopped the truck. The Riddler does not care if he hurts people.
Now, the steel man in favor of the film would be, well, Bruce Wayne hasn't done anything to try and make the city a better place. As from the Riddler's POV, he's just rested on a pile of money. Now, I think you could read that in, but there is no reference to this in the film.
Yes, I feel like if that was the reason, Riddler would have told him.
He literally did tell him.
Living in some tower over the park isn't being an orphan, looking down on everyone with all that money.
He's blatantly implying that Bruce Wayne is a money hog, and this is supported by the fact that Bruce Wayne is publicly seen as a rich guy who doesn't do anything. The mayor literally remarks on this.
So what the chat said, break of ethics. Didn't he attack the new mayor? She seemed good. Nah, that didn't break his code. So what you've highlighted is a very good point, and we will get there.
I'm just going to note this for later.
You highlight another inconsistency. See, it's not consistent. I'm just like, lol. Thank you, but we'll get there.
I'll note this as well.
I thought it was very odd that he took all the time to spray paint that stuff on the floor.
I was about to say something.
was to go look in a file cabinet about renewal, which was already on his mind.
Yeah,
I agree. To make a
Plus
document.
all
I
of,
totally agree.
all of the time that would have taken you to just write it down on a table.
I think it's absurd that he makes this retarded thing. It's
This makes it difficult.
It's for the trailer.
Bruce is writing out all of this to organize his thoughts. He's categorizing everything so he has it out in the open for his own access. You can call it weird, but everyone has their own unique ways of organizing. You've probably heard this somewhere, so I don't understand the point of criticizing the fact that Bruce doesn't just use pencil and paper. Not everybody organizes their thoughts this way.
Because this actively makes it more difficult to like process information, to spray paint it out and to spread all this stuff in this big room instead of just having it at a desk with you.
Some people use pencil and paper. Some people use computers. Some people throw notes all over the room. Some people keep it in a folder. I don't know why you're trying to say that it makes information more difficult to process when everyone works and organizes differently.
Remember the effort he puts into moving the table into the center of the floor? All he writes on that is a question mark. What the fuck are you doing, Bruce?
You mean to tell me that Batman is incorporating a workout that helps him stay in shape into another task he's working on? Wow, Batman's such an idiot.
Right, what was it? It was the white privileged assholes. That was the line. That was like the one line.
Yeah, that one took me out.
I just sort of like, where did that come from? Like, what?
Yeah.
I feel like that had nothing to do with anything.
It didn't.
Selina was trying to explain to Batman that they're both the only ones they can count on to stand up for Annika. She brought up the white privileged assholes to make the point that they're the only ones people care to uplift and empower. She didn't say it for no reason.
They were just, it feels really weird.
You're like, Selina, just because all of the bad people are white doesn't mean white people, like, you need to...
She didn't say anything that resembles what you're implying.
And Falcone, Falcone isn't white, is he? He's like...
John Turturro,
he's Italian.
Isn't he? Yeah, he likes like a Mediterranean sort of complexion.
He's
Depending on who you ask, they're white too. Italians are Schrodinger's white.
So, just again, you're regularly reminded that racism is really stupid, all right?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out if what she said makes sense.
It's just...
Well, I think it's just that there was nothing in the film that was talking about the idea of, like, racism being...
Race, until she brings it up.
Like, it was mainly... It was all about, like, power and, right? Government officials and senior people.
Yeah, it's about the abuse of power.
Which is what racism commonly entails. History tells you that.
It was barely about gender, either, so... Like,
it wasn't even about like privilege, really. It was more just abuse of power, institutions that are corrupt.
There was stuff about privilege earlier in that scene where you're talking about how people clearly grew up rich and things like that, right?
I'm fine with privilege comments. I'm not fine
he
with
clearly grew up rich.
The white part is super awkward.
Why is the white part awkward? That's simply implying racism exists in Gotham City. I don't know how that's awkward. It ties into abuses of power.
But yeah.
Well, there's definitely class elements to it. It's just the race thing I don't understand. Like that, it felt like we never got anything about that at all in the story.
It comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
It's like listening to it's the smiling friends thing. Wait, like you listen to a friend doing their rant on things you completely agree with, and then they just throw it like, yeah, I fucking hate them and they're Jewish.
Huh? Selina didn't say, I hate these people, they're white.
You fucking crackers are some of the worst fucking people on God's green earth. I swear to God, you guys are like a fucking disease. If you are white right now, and you're poor, you deserve to be poor. If you are white right now, and you're going through shit, you caused it.
She didn't say anything like that. She's saying that these people are white privileged assholes. She didn't say they were assholes for being white.
I kissed my dad.
Whoa, okay. The line, this line reminds me of the X-Women line from Dark Phoenix. It's just like,
oh man, don't even compare the two. That line was built on Raven acting completely disrespectful to Charles Xavier as a character, and his sacrifices in these movies for no reason at all.
And then, of course, shortly thereafter, Thomas and Martha were killed. So it's like, yeah, there's the legacy of the Waynes, and Bruce, you gotta pay for that. That feels a bit unfair to Bruce.
That's your fault.
Oh man, a villain that blatantly doesn't care about people is being unfair to people? Crazy idea. You see, guys, Joker's being really unfair to Harvey. Mr. Freeze, he's being really unfair to his goons. Green Goblin, he's being really unfair to Spider-Man. Like, what are we doing here?
Is it a coincidence that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person?
Go on.
You're gonna have to explain yourself because everyone in chat's about to say, what?
I'm gonna have to. I actually put it forth as more of a So this is what I wrote down when I was thinking about it. Is it a coincidence that Bruce, who just so happens to be Batman, is directly connected to the conspiracy that he is currently investigating? Think of it this way: from the world's perspective, is there any reason for anybody in the world to think that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Now, we know what the answer is, because the Riddler doesn't think he is. It's no, Batman could be anybody. And the Riddler has got Batman participating with him in an investigation that ties to Bruce Wayne in some way. Is that a coincidence that, like, the conspiracy that the Riddler is obsessed with and trying to uncover just so happens to be a conspiracy that is directly tethered to Bruce, who is Batman?
So, I see where he thinks it may be a contrivance, but I think they need to work backwards here. A character like Batman is a character that comes from a lot of money. Bruce Wayne comes from a lot of money. Batman was motivated by tragedy. Bruce experienced tragedy. Already, Bruce is higher up there as far as who is more likely to be Batman. To build upon this, Riddler is specifically going after people who seem to be the cause of the problems in the city. A rich guy who doesn't seem to help people would be one of them. Bruce is a rich guy that doesn't seem to help people, and the reason for that is because he's super busy being Batman and hasn't mastered that kind of balance. So while you could call that a coincidence, I feel that there are already major factors that make it so Batman's connection to the conspiracy doesn't come out of a vacuum, like his alter ego was just randomly picked on a whim. His alter ego has specific qualities that connect to his life as Batman.
Talked to Rags about this for a decent while, actually, because I was just talking about the nature of the bat signal in relation to Batman and all the adaptations and stuff. So, the fact that it is not on the top of the police station, and that it is instead in some kind of scaffold-laden skyscraper that's not quite complete, means to me that it is, you know... So you have pieces of information here, right? There's got to be a lot of people who don't like Batman, and they know that the signal relates to him, especially people in the station that connect to the mob and stuff. And you know that there's this one guy who activates the light all the time, and so, like, if you follow him, you'll find the location where they always have their meets pretty easily, and you can manipulate the light, be it destroy it or use it to call out Batman whenever you want. And so when I saw, I thought maybe there'd be some level of security or some super level of secrecy. What kind of threw me off was, like, the scene begins and it's like, wait, you didn't do the light? No? Did you? No? And I was like, whoa, anybody can just walk up there and turn the light on? Like, oh, yeah. Damn.
It was Selina that turned on the bat signal, not just some random person in Gotham. And she's literally known for sneaking into places to steal things and has plenty of tools for traversal. This isn't a case that anybody could just break into the bat signal.
I mean, surely there's security on the building. I thought the implication was that Catwoman climbed up there because that's a skill that she has.
I don't think there's any security.
Where was the security on the building?
As far as we know, it's just a lift that you walk into
and walk up.
The lift itself has security measures. You can't just activate it without a code or something. Catwoman literally uses a tool to snatch a combination lock, so she does have experience bypassing security measures. And even then, if the signal does get compromised, just build a new one at a different location. It's not this huge deal if it gets destroyed. Batman could still contact Gordon in other ways. A major purpose of the signal is scaring off criminals.
Which is, yeah, so we got that in stone, right? Like, the phone was taken from the apartment. So the first and foremost thing is, why wasn't it destroyed immediately?
Falcone would have ordered Kenzie, the police officer who knows how these investigations work, to destroy any evidence. He probably didn't even know of the phone call until after it was exposed, likely because Annika would have dropped her phone after being chased, or hid it for the sole purpose of Selina knowing what happened. Falcone would have just told Kenzie to erase every bit of evidence. Kenzie had Annika's body in his car alongside the phone, so he would have been the one responsible for destroying evidence. Kenzie didn't destroy the phone because it could be insurance for him. If he needs to protect himself from Falcone at any point in the future, he has that damning recording that can get him in prison. Or, if Falcone turns on him and it's too late, he can use that against him. Or, if Kenzie ever gets caught and wants to avoid being killed off for being a loose end, he can share that recording to bring him down. Notice how Kenzie only spills everything the moment he's caught. Kenzie is going to be in big trouble with Falcone after he gets caught like this, so obviously he's worried about what Falcone will do to him, and is willing to give information to help Batman take down Falcone.
That we had the DA earlier in the film who basically said, like, I am not going to name the rat because he will not only kill me, he'll kill my fucking everyone.
Oh, yeah, sorry, we jumped the gun there. Yeah, this guy is very talkative.
This guy tells them everything they could ever want to know, and I was really surprised with that.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Well, I've accidentally countered this in my previous point, so just refer to that.
Oh, yeah, so I would argue that's another problem for the film. She could access her voicemails without the phone.
From other things, yeah.
The film doesn't really acknowledge that, I don't think. Because it treats it as though she has to get the phone to get the voicemails.
I've never heard of any means of this, and I doubt Selina has. Regardless, Selina would still have full interest in going after Kenzie, who would have the phone anyway.
She then slowly puts her leg in prep to push it forward to kick him, then she looks at Batman and says something, and then she kicks him. I was like, dude, the second she lifted up her leg, Batman should be pulling it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think she's gonna do?
Yes, Selina is slowly putting up her leg. But if Batman makes a sudden move, she can react by kicking off Kenzie anyway. That's why Batman approached it with caution and focused on preparing his grapple gun so he could catch Kenzie. It's also a less predictable move.
So, if you remember the conversation, we see the tail end, I think, where she starts crying, he's like, let me get your tissue, and she's like, oh no, I have my own. And it's like, that's her way of setting up, reaching into the purse. But I'm just saying, you're like, I don't think you needed to do that. You could literally wanted to blow your nose. You didn't have to, like, set up the sob story and then cry. You could have just shot him.
Selina sets this up by making Annika the subject of the conversation.
I'm just so worried. I don't know where she is.
It's how she sets up her revenge against him, so she can reveal she has caught on to what really happened with her, and make it clear who she's doing this for. So, yes, she could have just shot him, but that wouldn't be as satisfying of a revenge plan.
Well, once he was on his own, you could have pulled... Yeah, right. So I guess that's the concern that Batman's going to have is like, damn, by the time you get there, my man, like, it might be well and truly too late. But I guess you got to try, right? There's nothing you can do about that.
I'm fine with him trying. I think the way I would frame it is he should have been too late, I think.
So should Selina have just shot him early on? That goes against how she wanted to set up her kill.
And to be fair, this is early-age Batman, so I'm totally fine with him not being as accomplished or experienced in that regard. But I guess I don't know that tanking, like...
can last for a lot of scenarios, but not, I'm gonna climb out of the elevator and just walk toward all the people with machine guns. Like, okay, that's just stupid.
So it's stupid for a character with heavily bulletproof armor to get the drop on a bunch of guys in the dark who can only defend themselves with bullets. Okay.
Last time when I was watching it, my fucking mouth dropped. I was like, how are you here? What the fuck? You should be in jail.
You remember
when you just showed up here, I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? You should be in jail, man. You should. How are you here? What? It fucked with me so much. And then he just pulls a gun. I was like, what are you doing?
In front of every cop in the city who isn't corrupt. Literally all of the worst cops to pull your gun out.
And then some kind of like you do it. Reddit level law degree person who's like, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't. Like, what the fuck? You pulled the gun on the police. You fucking moron.
Someone beat me to it.
Just in case it wasn't apparent what the issue is, Penguin is definitely in jail now. If he wasn't before, he is now.
The cops don't work for Falcone anymore because he got exposed. Penguin didn't get exposed and still has corruption within the police force. So even if Penguin was taken in, that same night was the night Riddler flooded the city.
So how the fuck is Batman walking around and being happy pally with the cops that has access to Riddler? And
yes, we would eventually have to come back to this.
They're the good cops.
I think the film legitimately forgot.
It feels that way. They didn't address this at all.
Forgot.
Batman just proved his worth to the police by taking in the mob boss who has corrupted the city through renewal for decades. While there are still going to be corrupt police officers, a good portion of them that aren't corrupt and disliked Batman are going to have their minds changed.
So, what do we think about this as a motive?
What specifically now?
I mean, that he was working with Bruce, that he was working with Batman to do all of this.
I'm not sold. I think it's a bit silly.
I mean, he clearly wanted to use Batman as a tool, right? I'm not sure that he believed he was
clear cut. I think he wanted Batman to figure it out, and he was going to give him a bit of help.
Well, yeah, I think it's clear from the off that that's what he wanted. Just not. I think them to be like Pally, right?
I think you present it this way. He figured it out, but it's not as simple as just giving this information to Batman. You need because otherwise the information becomes available to the police, including potentially the corrupt police. But like, if you can guide Batman towards an objective of yours, and if you perceive Batman as being somewhat outside of the system, I can see that lining up. And I think a big thing that works in favor of this interpretation of Batman on my side to some extent would be that Batman to the broader world, there's not a lot of information about him and what he wants, which I think is on purpose in terms of the theme.
Well, that's definitely what the film's going for.
Yeah, don't hurt me.
Communicated very poorly to the world what his objectives are as a hero.
However, there are things to pick up. For example, so the reveal here is that Riddler thought he was working with Batman the whole time, with him. And to an audience member, you might be like, oh, that kind of just makes sense, because everything up to this point has been interpretable on Batman's part. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, yeah, pretty conveniently, actually. If you look back at some of these scenes...
I'm gonna stop you right there, because earlier it was just agreed that it was deliberate that the world doesn't have a strong read of Batman's intentions because he doesn't share them, and leaves it up to interpretation. If you accept that as a part of Batman's character in the movie, then how is it a plot convenience that the villain of the movie has his own interpretation? This is a consistent part of Batman's character, the fact that he doesn't communicate what his objectives are outside of vengeance. How is it a plot convenience that one character misinterprets another character who consistently leaves his intentions unclear and up to interpretation?
All of there's plenty of implications. Like, all it takes is for, like the DA when he's on the phone with him, all it takes is Batman to be like, what's it going to take for you to stop doing this?
Asking Riddler what it will take to get him to stop isn't going to be seen as a rejection from Riddler's perspective. He would probably see that as a test of how strongly committed he is to his cause out of a biased interpretation, and say something along the lines of, I will stop once you bring the rat into the light, or I will stop once I've wiped the city of this plague. Batman's response to that would be continuing to figure out what Riddler wants, which is literally what he does in the scene by letting him finish what he's saying. Furthermore, from Batman's point of view, he's already making it clear that he's against Riddler by actively trying to stop his plans. So how would verbal specification benefit Batman from his perspective? It just so happens that many of Batman's actions align with what Riddler wants. And I'll add on to this by saying that even if Riddler was given hints of rejection, his first response wouldn't be to accept it. When Batman gave him a downright, explicit rejection, he was in denial and trying to argue with Batman on it.
We've been doing this together. You're part of this.
We didn't do anything together.
We did. I asked you to bring him in the light, and you did. We're such a good team.
We're not a team. I gave you nothing.
You showed me what was possible.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
What?
This is all in your head. You're sick. Twisted.
How could you say that?
So you'd think mere hints of rejection can fly over his head more easily. I know this is true in the real world too. I mean, just take a look at one of EFAP's biggest enemies.
Like, what's wrong? What are your plans, Riddler? Or like anything introspective about like how we're going to solve this problem? Because if he avoids asking any questions like that, then Riddler will never have to wonder if Batman is on his team. But you also have to worry about Riddler never clarifying that with Batman. It's just an understanding he has. And then it's like, is that a fair understanding? It's like, it's kind of weird considering how much Batman works with the cops. He fucking hates all of them.
Riddler is someone who was inspired by Batman. He thinks Batman would be okay with his actions because Batman inspired them in the first place. Sure, he misread Batman's character, but we've gone over how that can happen to someone who doesn't make their intentions clear to the public.
My mask allowed me to be myself. I never could have gotten him out of there. I'm not physical. My strength is up here. You showed me all it takes is fear and a little focused violence. You inspired me.
Riddler believes that Batman knows how to make people listen, and therefore cause real change that way. And similar to Riddler and his followers, Riddler believes that Batman is motivated by vengeance. In this regard, he thinks they're in the same playing field.
I'm vengeance.
You're like, yeah, but Batman, you know, he's all about beating up corrupted and bad thugs and people. He's about justice and stuff. Riddler sees himself as that, you know? And I'm just like, yeah, that's not really enough for me. I don't think Riddler would believe Batman is on Team Riddler, especially without clarification.
The film outlines numerous reasons why he thinks this.
He seems like a pretty smart guy, despite the wailing and screaming and stuff.
Being smart doesn't mean you don't have emotional blind spots, or are incapable of looking over things out of bias. Batman's a smart guy, but he doesn't realize the impact he has by never making his intentions clear to the public, outside of saying, "I'm vengeance." Yeah, it contributes to the fear factor to keep criminals in line, but there's a point where this can inspire the wrong behaviors.
With all the plans he has to have been put together to some extent, and the idea that he's like, Batman's my teammate, he's gonna enjoy watching with me as we drown Gotham. I'm just like, are you insane? Yeah. That's totally not Batman's MO, dude.
Ah, yes. Is the Riddler insane? Riveting question. I wonder if the film answers this in any way.
This is all in your head. You're sick. Twisted.
Here is a big thing that I think makes it a lot harder for me to fully understand all of it. So, something he says to him at the end of the conversation is like, oh, clearly you weren't as smart as I thought you were. You haven't figured out my endgame, essentially. Because Batman is surprised by the notion that there's more going on.
Yeah.
And I guess to jump ahead a bit, what the final clue was the first thing that we saw in the film, the murder weapon. It is a thing that you can use to remove, like, carpets. The reason why Bruce eventually figures this out when he goes back to the crime scene is because the cop there points it out to him. Because his dad was a carpenter.
Fucking lame.
It's very, very helpful.
It's like this thing you can remove carpet with it.
Can we restate that, please, for those listening? Batman's not got a clue for this. He's done. He doesn't know what to do. He goes back to the evidence. Well, I say evidence room. It's Riddler's home, I guess.
It's Riddler's apartment, and the friendly cop that.
Yeah. Well, so, funnily enough, when the cop saw him and was like, you know, what are you doing here? I thought we were doing something else. I didn't realize the whole reason that cop exists is to put Batman onto the fucking case. I was just like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I thought, which causes kind of more problems. He's so fucking lucky that this cop isn't the kind of cop to be like calling back up and being like, Batman has broken into the fucking evidence place. He's doing all kinds of shit.
Yeah, because he shouldn't be working with the police anymore.
Batman already helped prove his worth by taking in Falcone. This was explained already.
The police should be very anti-Batman, but like putting that to one side,
trying to arrest him.
Batman picks up the fucking first murder weapon, and he's like, this is interesting. And the guy's like, oh, that's a carpentry tool. I know this because my dad was a carpenter or some shit. It's like, fuck off.
I grew up surrounded by carpets.
I think it makes a lot of sense why a police officer would know this, as opposed to the rich guy who has a butler clean his house for him, but we'll proceed.
The carpet tool is used to remove the carpet. And underneath it, we have a big old map showing I think it's 7 locations along the seawall for Gotham. Oh, something we probably should have mentioned earlier. Gotham is the oceans are really high up, and there's a seawall protecting this part of the city.
Yeah.
So what we find out when a real change, which is written on the map, is entered into the computer, that the plan, the big plan at the end of it, was to blow up the seawall. So to bring it back to the scene in terms of the Riddler thinking Batman was on his side and being surprised that he hadn't figured out the seawall, what did he expect Batman to do when he was in the crime scene with the police? To open it up and see it all and be like, yeah, cool. Like, is that what he thought? And then none of the police or anybody would have a perspective on it at all?
Yes, the Riddler believed that Batman would agree with his plan to enact vengeance against the city. Again, you can call this insane, but the Riddler already explained his perspective on the matter, and we can see that it isn't coming out of a vacuum. And calling it insane when it's deliberately insane doesn't make his motivation poor.
Can I also clarify, he didn't expect the forensics team would check the fucking carpet?
Where does Riddler say that? I thought Riddler was expecting Batman to figure it out, then come to Riddler about this as opposed to evacuating the civilians like the police would. Arkham would be safe from the flooding while Batman and Riddler get to enjoy their revenge against the corrupt city.
Because the big thing is they don't need the video. Once you see the 7 dots, you're just like, oh shit, let's check what's at the 7 dots, and you'll find the vans with the bombs in them.
What did you guys find? I found a van. What did you guys find? I found a van. What did you guys find?
What do they have in there? Oh, it's just like a bunch of equipment, yeah.
Oh, it's you know, one of those it must be the Explosive Man's van.
The broad goal of all of the riddles was Batman is going to help me execute my goal, and he is on my side for it. And the fact that he's surprised that Batman is unaware of the plan at the end means that do you not understand what that means in terms of him being surprised? Oh, you're my friend. Wait, you're not my friend. Oh, but you don't even know about that. Wow, you're not smart at all. Like, man, I'm really struggling to see how it's not.
He'd already set up the vans. Like, yes, you're getting there. So the vans haven't exploded yet. And if the police know about it, they can stop them.
If anyone goes to those vans to attempt to deactivate the bombs, then all Riddler and his goons need to do is blow them up as soon as they interfere. What do you mean the cops can just stop them? They'd have to drive to 7 separate areas in the city just to make this futile attempt. Why do you think they've jumped to evacuation instead of driving to those vans only to blow themselves up?
So Batman was in there with the police, which he definitely knows the police were in there because the police everywhere and they arrested him, and Batman was with the police. When did he, if Batman took out the carpet while all the police were there, which very much could have happened, like, damn.
Okay, and while Batman meets the Riddler at Arkham considering it would be his plan and he thinks that they're working together, the cops would start an evacuation, which gets the attention of the Riddler goons, who would just blow up the vans the second they try to deactivate the bombs.
Because between Batman finding the thing under the carpet and the police being in there, when they should have found the carpet thing, there's like...
They should have found it when they first got to the apartment and turned everything over.
Oh my god.
There are mountains of evidence to look at besides this one carpet where everyone is going to be standing on while investigating. Sure, they did leave the scene, but they aren't aware of Riddler's endgame, so therefore they don't believe the situation is super urgent.
He's just not listening. Literally moments later they blow up. I am talking about when they first get into the apartment thanks to Riddler. If they find out then, which was Riddler's plan...
Which is what Riddler believed that Batman had done. That's an important part as well, that Riddler believed that Batman had figured it out.
You have to understand this, right? This is so straightforward as a flaw. Come on, I believe in you.
This point falls apart the moment you realize that Riddler would account for this by blowing up the vans right before the cops can reach them. If the cops figured it out, then Batman did, so there's no concern about keeping Batman in the loop on this plan.
I guess we haven't talked about it either. Why did the Riddler turn himself in, do we think?
He has no chance of an escape after sniping at Falcone, and he knew he would be taken somewhere that would be safe from the flood. He already got what he wanted by this point.
I think the movie's argument is that he would like to use this as an opportunity to meet up with Batman, and they can watch as Gotham drowns from Arkham Asylum, which doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Well, he says that Arkham is safe.
That's not good enough. You can be safe.
No, I know, right? But you can be safe outside of Arkham.
Go to a hill.
Or any tall building.
Go to a curb. Like, the water that eventually, once it's calm, is what, like 3 feet or something? How significant?
Okay, but to be fair, it's
higher than that, my dude.
It's pretty high.
Once it's calm.
How would Riddler get to a high building or a high hill from his apartment? The police are just going to catch him. He has no chance of actually making it that far with how many cops are there nearby the apartment building. That just sounds stupid. Imagine the scene where Riddler is trying to outrun the police over to Gotham Empire and just chill at the roof of the building. He's not getting past 1 block.
We see places once it's calm where it's 3 feet deep.
It's very high. It's super
no, there are places where it's still on the ground where it's like there are chairs in a restaurant and you see it's like just coming to the bottom of the chairs. Like,
because Riddler will definitely have these measurements ahead of time. And again, where do you want the Riddler to go? The police will just catch him anyway in the examples given.
We see it flooding through the city
where once it's calm, Rags.
Yeah, like that's the thing. You don't want to be caught.
Rags is talking about when it's calm. No, stop. When we see at the end of the film, there are areas of the city that are super underwater. Like, there are parts of it that
Okay,
are
so
very underwater.
for me to be correct, I need one area that is 3 foot deep.
How would Riddler even know which areas would be 3 feet deep before blowing up the seawalls? And how would Riddler get there without the police going after him? Oh wait, that's why he allows himself to be locked in Arkham, because he knows Arkham is one of the safest spots in the city.
No, so the clarifier is that the entirety of Gotham isn't underwater. Part of Gotham is underwater. This part of the city, there are other parts.
Riddler's apartment is going to be in the area that gets flooded.
Yes, that does, but like, I have no idea why you were talking about the calmness of the water. Like,
So I can explain that. So when the water rushes in at first, it will be higher than when it is calm.
So then it's not safe. Gotham isn't going to experience the flood only when it's calm.
Yes, but when it is calm, it is very high. Are you willing to accept that that's the case in the city?
Well,
because it
in
sounded
the
like what
city,
you were saying was
you already
not
counted
that
your own
high.
point by saying that there's different levels throughout the city.
Yes, but like,
so I'm willing to say,
to...
so my whole point is that there is safety to be found outside of Arkham.
Yeah. No, we agree, but the implication of what you were saying was that when the water was coming through and it was violent, it was like, oh, just find a curb and you'll be okay.
No, that's not what I said at all. I said when it's calm. That is not calm.
You literally said find a curb.
No,
exactly. When it's calm, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
but he needs to be somewhere while it's flooding. So
what I am trying.
He can be anywhere when it's flooded. He can go to his own house.
Specifically, what I was trying. You made it sound like when it was calm, the water wasn't that high. In the cities, in the part of the city,
and I only have to be right.
It's something that I think we talked about. Does it make sense that the Riddler, who has specifically been targeting corrupt officials within Gotham's city, that he would flood the city?
No, I don't think it does. I think it's a huge breach of his.
Why did Riddler flood the city? Now, most people wouldn't need this explained to them, but in the odd case of it. Jokes aside, he wanted to punish the city for its corruption, especially for how it affected Riddler. He also wanted to make a name for himself in the process, so he does have a major effect on the city's history.
I've been invisible my whole life. I guess I won't be anymore, will I? They'll remember me now.
Riddler wants the attention that comes with his actions. He wasn't doing it for the people. He was doing this for himself, in his own satisfaction to be gained from the situation. If he truly cared about the city, he would have just shared all this evidence years back, instead of hiding it through all these riddles. He wouldn't be going after Bruce Wayne for reasons based in jealousy. He wouldn't go after the mayor under the belief that she's just like every other politician who gives false promises.
False promises of renewal? We'll give them a real change. Now they will spend their last moments wondering, what are you doing?
Acting like Riddler is breaching ethics as if he ever acted on any kind of ethics to begin with doesn't make any sense. He's doing this for himself and the film makes this blatantly clear.
Is it worth mentioning...
It's antithetical.
Do we at this point know his full plan? Has it been said on his little thing?
This is in the video where he's effectively said, like, this is a real change. We're gonna...
I meant, like, the other thing he's gonna do. The, with the rifles.
So what, kill the new mayor?
Because I take issue with both that and the flooding.
I take issue with both as well.
The new mayor has no corruption behind her that we're aware of. She seems to be pretty altruistic.
Why would Riddler trust the mayor?
By the way, is it not a little dangerous for Batman to set off tons of explosives on a glass roof
and
then drop down?
Yeah, that's a little dangerous. You know what's very dangerous? Not getting in the quickest way possible, since Riddler's goons are literally seconds away from starting a mass shooting. Notice how Selina arrives at the garden before Batman does, and takes minutes longer than Batman does to reach the scene of the fight. That's because she went in through one of the designated entrances instead of the one Batman used. Batman used the quicker entrance that would also catch them off guard, since entering through any other way would expose Batman's location in this crowded area, and therefore cause hordes of bullets to be fired at the crowd. You have a choice between risking glass falling on people and risking a crowd being shot with bullets. Pick your poison.
But now it's dangerous for the civilians, and it would take you more time than you need to waste to get here.
This route is the quickest he had.
Yeah, and it's not stealthy. That's another thing I guess it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
It literally is stealthy. It gets the drop on them and makes it confusing to pinpoint Batman's location due to how overwhelmed they are.
So, to jump on, I'll cut the wide, which it probably should have killed him, but that's just another example of plot armor of many in the film.
What do you mean, because of the electrocution?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it had enough charge to kill several people in the water, then it should have killed him several times over, surely.
If the electrified object falls into the water, it would be given a constant supply that would electrocute everyone. Batman cuts the wire, so he would only deal with the shock for a short amount of time, as opposed to consistent exposure. And we don't even know how much this is. There's nothing stating that this would absolutely kill him.
You probably shouldn't have put out a big thing of everyone come to Square Garden. It should have been everyone get to a high place now.
Any building that has stairs, you can go higher up.
And what's the plan if the flood causes structural damage to buildings? The garden is built to withstand hurricanes. that is the safest place to evacuate to.
So I guess something that's worth mentioning now is that there is the implication that the Penguin is free to take over because he's not in jail. Yeah.
There's people out there who are like, yeah, you know, because the place is in chaos. Hold on, it's like, fuck you, the Riddler's in jail. He's just sitting there. Or Penguin.
And Penguin was caught twice, and he's still not there before this all happened.
They never arrested him. He's just doing whatever he wants.
Riddler was arrested before the flood. Penguin would have to go through a full legal process regarding what happened the night of the Batmobile chase, and Batman doesn't have time to spend on that because Riddler's the priority, and Riddler doesn't have connections to corrupt cops. Penguin does.
You were there at the beginning, and now you get to see how it ends.
So that's the end of it all, and wow, this ended up being much longer than I thought. I hope this was fun. I'm down to discuss this film more at some point for those interested. As many of you know, Disagreement Day is run every so often by myself, Colin, and League Entertainment, so if you want to discuss any of the points with us, feel free. Anyway, I'm signing off.